So I'm just going to play a random match online versus a randomly selected opponent, and hopefully a good kingdom can demonstrate the basic principle we've been discussing. Alright, so here we have a match versus Airman, who's ranked 54. It's probably, I don't know, top 200, top 300, if I had to guess. We've got a pretty decent kingdom here, I think, to demonstrate the main principles. So we've got, your spawner nest. Don't want them to not have good luck. So actions. We see University gives plus action. Hideout also gives plus action. And Ghost Town. Ghost Ship's a different card. Ghost Town gives plus action. This one's a little bit tricky to identify because it only says +1 card, +1 action. But the thing to note is that Ghost Town is giving you +1 action at the start of your next turn when you're not playing it. And so this is netting you 1 action. In case you haven't played Nocturne before, just note that night cards, unlike action cards, don't require actions to play. So Ghost Ship does not cost you an action, and it gets you an action next turn, so Ghost Ship counts as a village. And then lastly, we have this Sauna-Avanto combo. This in a subtle way can also function with like a village effect, because you play, say, Sauna once, that lets you play an Avanto from your hand automatically. The Avanto lets you play a Sauna from your hand automatically, and so if you chain that together, you're playing 3 or 4 cards with only 1 action being spent, and so if you chain these, you get a village effect, only if you play multiples. Then for draw, we've got Patrol for draw, draws 3 cards, so netting you 2, which draws 2 cards, netting you 1. You see Avanto from this pile, also draws cards, and that's all our draw cards. Just a brief interjection to clarify something that wasn't mentioned in the video. When I was listing draw cards, I actually didn't point out Seer, which I totally should have, because Seer is a draw card. If you look at the effect, it gets +1 card, +1 action every time you play it. So at minimum, it breaks even on draw. And it has this effect where you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and you put all the ones from 2 to 4 in your hand. So worst case scenario, Seer is draw neutral, it's drawing you 0 cards, because +1 card just breaks even. Best case scenario, you find 3 cards from 2 to 4, you put all of them in your hand, plus the guaranteed card, and you're net drawing 3. So Seer can draw anywhere from 0 to 3 cards. It's a pretty good draw card if you have a kingdom that's mostly 2 to 4 costs. And in fact, you'll see later in this game that I do get 1 or 2, although it wasn't a key draw card here. Trashing. Hideout can trash. Sauna can trash, provided you have a silver. And that's all the trash. Oh no, Temple also trashes. Temple's a decent trasher. And then we have Familiar, which adds curses to your deck, as does Witch. So we want to make sure we stay on top of trashing, otherwise we'll end up with a whole bunch of curses on our deck. So they're opening Sauna. That's interesting. They just want to go straight for Sauna, Silver, I think, and get trashed that way. I feel like that's not the best thing you can do here, though. I think I'm going to get a Temple, because Temple can trash 2 cards at a time early. And I really want to get trashed early to keep my deck thin, whereas Sauna trashes at most 1 card in the early game, and only if you happen to line it up with your silver, which is a much more spotty way to trash. I'm also going to get a potion. I'm getting the potion. I'll consider getting Familiar as well, because cursing is not bad. But the card I think I really want in this kingdom is University, which is a nice gainer. It lets you gain multiple 5-cost actions. A thing I hadn't discussed yet, which I think is a pretty severe limitation in this kingdom, is there's no plus buy. And so normally, if I want to get an action card in my deck, I'm getting 1 extra action in my deck per turn, which is a pretty severe limitation, right? Your engine can't build very fast. But if I gain those extra actions via University, and that spares my buy, which I can then spend on other stuff, like I can buy Ghost Town, which is not an action. I could buy Fleet, which is not an action. I can buy Province, which aren't an action. So I'd like to get as much of the actions as I can from University gains, rather than from buys themselves. That being said, I have hit 3 potion here. So I'm strongly considering getting Familiar instead to start off with, because curses in the early game are really nice. That'll slow my opponent down a lot. I could see getting University there as well, because this is not the strongest kingdom for cursing ever. There's decent trash in the form of Temple, form of Sauna, and Hideout, so it's not like curses are going to be like a game-winning thing like they can be in some kingdoms. But I still feel like that early game tempo boost should not be underestimated. So my opponent's going pretty heavy for Saunas. Now this is a nice combination. You'll find that Sauna-Avanto is a really strong combo in a lot of kingdoms, because it provides you, like I said, sort of subtly it provides actions, clearly it provides draw, it provides trashing, it can build a really self-sustaining kingdom. The big limitation, I think, of Sauna-Avanto is that The Avanto half of the pile is buried underneath all 5 of the Sauna half of the pile. So you have to get through all 5 Saunas to get to the Avantos. Now if I buy Saunas too, it's going to be easy to get to Avantos. We'll both be emptying it and we'll get there fast. So given that he's already got a majority of the Saunas, I'm actually going to just try to play around that and leave the Saunas untouched entirely. And that's going to hamstring his deck a bit, I think. Because he really wants to get Sauna-Avanto going. And he's got to buy 5 more or less useless on their own Saunas before he gets to his first Avanto, and then the deck starts to kick off. And so hopefully that's going to provide enough of a disadvantage that my deck can outpace it. And we'll see if that's true. What I want from my deck, I think, is mostly going to be Seer is not bad, but it targets 3 and 4 cost cards, of which I don't think I'll have too many. There's not a lot of 3-4 cost cards I want here. I want mostly 5s, and so I'm thinking I'll mostly gain a few patrols for draw, maybe a witch or 2 as well to finish off the curses faster. Gain a few bakers for the payload. I'll have to buy a ghost town or 2 for action, although University will also help with that. And then we'll start in on provinces. What do I gain here? I could gain those temples. That's a lot of victory points sitting there, but it also doesn't really help my deck. I am pretty low on payload right now, so I consider just getting the baker because it gives me a coffer. This is a hard choice. I'll take the baker. We'll see how that goes. I'm not at all confident in that decision. There's a lot of, I think, plausible candidates here. I can consider taking the Avanto to sort of deny him access to that pile. The Seer is not bad at the moment because I've got a lot of 2, 3, 4 costs with Potion, Estate, and Temple. The Witch is even as good because getting curses in early is good. There are definitely a number of plausible candidates. All right. So now let's add a little bit of draw. I'll take the Avanto just to deny him access to a key pile. And what do I want? I'm not too worried about him taking Temple, because if he does, he doesn't have extra gains like I do. So he has to spend his only buy at the turn on that. So he gets Temple, he gets the victory points, but he's passed up on buying. Whereas I can sort of gain this Temple for free at basically any point off my universities. And so I'm going to leave that there a little bit longer. Do I want another draw card? Maybe I want to... Let's get cursing going faster. This might be a mistake. Certainly once he gets his deck up and running with a bunch of Sauna and Avanto, the curses aren't going to hurt at all, because he will be able to just trash those curses as they come in with the Sauna effect. Because he'll be playing a bunch of Saunas per turn, and I'll be able to trash a bunch of curses each turn. So if I want to curse him at all, which I think I do, it's, I think, best to do that in the early game rather than the late game. I could see an argument for just skipping Witch entirely and saying curses aren't going to slow him down enough in the short term, and they certainly won't matter in the long term. Yeah, so this is where his deck's going to end up going pretty fast, is he'll play a bunch of these, and he'll be able to trash a bunch of stuff, and then his deck's going to be nice and clean. The limitation is, without University, he's only gaining a single card per turn. So now I'll gain a second Baker, because I still need payload. Let's add in a curse. I'll go ahead and get the Temple now, I think. Just take those points, and I will need some payload, I think, considering the silver, also considering the ghost town. The reason I might avoid the silver is because I can get payload off of Baker, whereas I can't really get more plus action without buying either University or ghost town. So action is the one thing I have to spend buys one, because there's nothing I can technically gain hideouts with the University, but hideout's not a card I really want to be using because it requires trashing. I think I really just do want to get payload fast though, so I'm going to go ahead and buy the silver. This turn I probably want to buy Ghost Town, because I've got the Ghost Town in play last turn, which is going to be plus action this turn. But I want to make sure I have plus action for next turn as well. And I don't have any Ghost Towns upcoming in my deck. And so I'm considering very strongly buying a Ghost Town this turn. Yeah, so it looks like his deck is now clean. He's got the Sauna-Avanto thing up and running, and he's now trashing his curses. There's very little chance adding more curses to his deck is going to hurt him very much at this point. Because he'll just be able to trash them as soon as they come in. I don't agree with his Avanto buy though, I don't think. I mean, maybe he's worried about me sniping them, which I very much could. I could just, take this like this. But he's low on payload. He's got like 3 silvers, and he can't really afford provinces. So I think for him, he probably just needs to start greening, because his deck is not built to keep running long term, right? He doesn't have extra gains. He can buy 1 thing per turn, whereas I can buy a thing and gain stuff with universities. So the longer this game goes, the more I think it will favor me. Which means if I am him, I am very much thinking, how do I bring the game to a close? I don't think I'm going to buy any more universities. My limited single buy per turn is going to be too valuable at this point. And so I'm just going to confirm trashing, and I think I'll buy a Ghost Town to make sure I have draw for next turn. Yeah, so I think this should be a 1 game for me. His deck is a little bit cleaner, a little bit stronger in the short term. This thing is just going to reliably draw it every turn. But the thing that he ends up drawing to is just a stack of silvers. And the most thing a stack of silvers can do for him is buy a province, which he can't even yet because he only has 3 silvers. Now, with 3 silvers and a gold, he can buy a province. My deck, for example, can trash with Temple, get a victory point, gain another Temple off University, get another victory point from that. And so my deck maxes out at a higher level. I can score more points per turn in the long run. And that's because I set up a deck that has extra gains in it. And so I think that's going to be the weakness of the Sauna-Avanto thing. Let's add, I think, another Baker. Just want to make sure I have 8 in deck so I can reliably buy province if I want to. Maybe another patrol to make sure, I say another. My first patrol to make sure I have draw. Has he trashed all his coppers? I think he has. There's 3 coppers left untrashed. 2 of them are in my hand. I think 1 more is somewhere else in my deck. Now, there's Keep around, which gives you 5 victory points per extra treasure you have left. So I really want to keep 1 copper around, I think, because that's going to score me 5 points, and it's going to be hard for him to contest those, because he would have to spend, again, his only buy of the turn to buy back a copper. And so I just want to leave exactly 1 copper, I think, in my deck, and that should be enough for me. And I can go ahead and buy a second Ghost Town. Well, a third Ghost Town, a second for this turn. Yeah, so here's that last copper. That's going to be worth 5 points for me. He does have a gold, so at some point I could consider, say, buying a gold instead of buying a province or duchy, because that would get me 5 points. Because it would tie me back up in terms of number of golds for keep purposes. And I think he's in the lead in silvers. So I could consider contesting that. Now, curses are getting low, so it's 2 piles out. Although I don't see a 3rd pile that's going to imminently run. I can run down the Baker pile, for example, with my universities to give me a little bit more pile pressure, so I can end the game on my turn if I want to. And that's something worth considering. There's not like an imminent 3 pile threat, and certainly he can't threaten a 3 pile because he can only gain 1 card per turn. So I'm going to put this Temple somewhere besides the top, so that when I play my Seer, it will draw it. So now I'll play 2 Bakers, and I have draw left over. So at this point I should consider, if I play universities now, I can stick potentially productive cards back on my deck and then immediately play them again. So I might want to consider what cards I want in the short term for this turn. Probably some more Bakers, I would think. Get some more coin tokens. I can go ahead and trash this Temple for points. Gain another Temple off of that. Draw that. And now, it's a nice steady deck, I think. Again, I could consider adding another Ghost Town, so I'm playing 2 per turn, make sure it's nice, steady, and reliable. If I were behind in points, that wouldn't really be a consideration. I definitely need to keep pace. I could do that here. I'm still considering it, just to make sure I can never dud. I think I'm just going to go ahead and buy Fleet and then start it on provinces, though. Fleet, I think, makes sense to me. Fleet's going to be functionally worth 5 points for me, so about as good as a province, because I know on my Fleet turn, at a minimum, I can buy a gold or something, and that'll be 5 points from keep, and potentially more than that, because I can also score a point or 2 off Temples. And so Fleet's going to be basically as much points as the province, but it doesn't put any cards in my deck, so I'd rather start with Fleet and then start buying provinces. The main thing that I think tipped me in favor of not going ahead and buying the Ghost Town and just starting on points is because I've just got this stack of 10 surplus coin tokens. And so I figured even if I do have, maybe a slight dud turn or 2, because I didn't get as many Ghost Towns as I could, I can just dip into this reserve of coin tokens. That's probably only going to increase from here. And then I don't have to worry too much about dudding because I can just buy the province anyway. And so from here on, I think I'll just be buying provinces. Just another baker, I guess. Makes sense to me. In fact, now that I've brought the baker pile down to 2, I'm not going to lower it down to 1 because that means he could buy a baker and threaten to 3 pile. But if I leave it at 2, I can threaten to gain 2 bakers off of my university, which means if I happen to have a points lead at any point in this game, I can force the game to a close. So in lieu of that, I'll just gain Seer. Seer can't find a whole lot, but I can find my Temple, Silvers, and Ghost Town, so it's better than nothing. I'll go ahead and trash this Witch for points. It's not doing a whole lot for me anymore. Play the Baker. I could just trash this Seer again. I mean, I value this Seer a little bit for liability of draw, but also kind of value the points of Temple. I think I might as well just do that. And then I'll buy a province. I actually could consider trashing these silvers. Like I said, I have a surplus of coffers, so I could just plan to buy the provinces along with coffers. And I think he's noticed where this game's going, and he's resigned. And there you go. That's an example of building an engine. I think the key takeaway from this, I probably should have left the kingdom up to talk about it, is I think the limitation of his deck was he didn't have extra gains. The only gainer in that kingdom was university, and it's the only my strategy really relied on choosing the path that gets me the ability to gain extra cards, and that gives me the ability to prolong the game as much as I want, because I know my deck's going to snowball quicker than his next turn. He gets at most 1 extra card in his deck per turn, whereas for me, I could gain the extra action cards without spending a buy, and then spend my buy on things that score me points, like, for example, the fleet or provinces, etc. And so my deck was just inevitably going to end up better in the end.